You have found the portal into the Laughing Stoic Buddha universe. LSB podcast with Nick Bibeau.
You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think.
To acquire and arrive at is based on having never left. Yeah. Just chilled out because
Okay, y'all, this is going to be an epic one. We got the journeyman. Welcome to the Laughing Stoic Buddha podcast.
That's awesome, bro. I'm glad to be here, man. Thank you so much for getting this ready. We've been connecting for quite some time, and I just want to appreciate you for having me here, man.
Right on, dude. I appreciate the hell out of you. I'm going to give you a good compliment right now. This is something I've been talking to people, getting prepared for this. And the compliment is this. You are such an articulate, amazing speaker that when I woke up this morning, I go, dude, I got to get my head right. I got to bring the heat because I know the journeyman is going to bring the heat. And that's you putting the not the fear, but like the motivation to get my shit together, to make sure I'm well rested, to make sure I got caffeine in me, make sure I got my head straight and my notes together is a compliment to just how much I respect your ability to speak, to connect, to articulate. I've been in this podcast game for coming up on 5 years, and I know talent when I hear it and when I see it. And you are a talented communicator and dialogue speaker for sure. So I just want to start off with that, giving you a little bit of love and to honor this space that we're holding here today. For me to do my best to try to keep up with someone who I consider a masterful communicator.
Oh man, thank you so much, brother. That means so much to me, man. I've spent my entire life trying to figure out how to communicate better, just for influence and the nuances and speech patterns and different archetypes of people and how they relate to what you say and how you can bring that message across and the emotional resonance across. I think it's super important. Everybody needs communication skills. If you have a great idea and you can't communicate it, it's just going to flop. But if you have a terrible idea and you can communicate it, it'll do really well. So, yes. Just goes to show you the power of speech and the words you use in order to connect with people. And I think it's super important. And I just want to thank you, man. That means a lot to me.
Right on, man. Yeah. So this is something I bring up on the podcast sometimes. I think you'll really jam with it. I might have mentioned it in one of the many spaces we've talked on together. Have you heard of the idea of dialogos? Have you heard that word before?
I think it's something that comes out of the word or originates out of the word dialogue, but I have not heard of dialogos. No.
Okay. So dialogos it comes from like ancient Greek philosophy, and it's the idea of wisdom through dialogue. And even more so, it's the idea that there's certain wisdoms that can only be arrived at through conversation. Right. So there's other, I knew you'd love that. I see that smile on your face.
Awesome.
I knew you would love that. And so the idea is that like you can meditate, you can pray, you can contemplate personally, right? You can write, you can journal, and you can arrive at very deep, profound truths and realizations. But the idea in Dialogos is there's certain realizations, there's certain truths that can only be derived through dialogue, through at least two people coming together and exploring an idea together through speech, through dialogue. And that at my goal for this podcast, like the pinnacle is to try to perform the best dialogos that we can together.
Hey, let's do it, man. I'm ready. Game.
Right on.
I think the idea behind it actually is because we all want certain type of value. And I tell people that, if I ask them what their definition of value is, they don't really know, or they'll use the word value in the definition. And I think it's a circular definition that people use because they've just been brought up with it, right? And they've never really thought about, well, what does value exactly mean, especially when you're talking one-on-one with someone. And I think dialogos, like you're pointing out, is the concept of bringing value through words to one another through collaboration, right? And how you can do that, well, you have your own subjective reality. You come together to work to go to some common objective, and I think our sense of value is just based on our conscious awareness, right? So as time evolves, so do we, and so does our sense of value. And so value just becomes the state of interconnectedness or the connectedness to something over a certain period of time. And so if you can connect with someone through the words you speak and the emotional resonance you provide, then that idea you're talking about in terms of wisdom being derived through just speech is just the emotional resonance underneath the words, or the tone behind the words that you use, because the tone underneath the words is actually the emotion. So your voice just becomes a remote control for how you're feeling.
Yeah, bro, I knew it that if I brought up any idea, you would be able to to go even deeper and say it even more beautiful and articulate than I can. That's beautiful, bro, because yeah, it is. I love the idea. You were talking about this the other night, and I was totally jamming with it on a space. The idea that we all have a subjective reality, right? And subjective, for anyone that's listening doesn't understand, I think of it as like first person, like from first person video game, right? From this place, from our view of things, we are a subject that is seeing reality, that's experiencing reality. And the idea that we're all going towards some common goal, right? We have our own subjective goal. Everybody else has their own subjective goal. And how do we even communicate or deliver our subjective goal to somebody else? Well, the best way possible. It's communication. It's talking, right? And you're such an expert. And I would love to for you to just jam and go deeper on this, on the idea of like, no matter how good your common goal is, no matter what your message is, you have to be able to deliver it in a convincing way. And that's when you
Yes.
get into tonality and emotional resonance and all that. This is something that you've been obsessed with. You've been studying very deeply now for some time, right? So if you can speak a little bit to, because I've read your stuff, I've read your pinned tweet, you really get into this really nicely. What it's like, because I can relate to this, what it's like to be in a place of isolation where you don't, when you're introverted, where you don't know how to make that connection with other people, you don't know how to communicate, what that experience was like for you personally, and what the transformation was like to where you first got the hint that there was a power to being able to be social and connect and communicate with other people. So
Oh
if you
man,
could take us on that journeyman, I'm
that's a bit.
sure the listeners would appreciate it.
I love it. I love it so much. And I'll just start off by saying that, I mean, in high school, super introverted, to the point where I was bullied for being introverted. I was bullied for not fitting in. Like I would see myself subjectively from the first person thing that you're talking about. And I just would look at these different groups of people, like the jocks and the smart guys and the athletes and the photography club, and I just be like, man, I don't fit in at all. And anywhere I try to go, they would bully me, and I just be there like, oh shit, well, like why? Like I'm just not gonna say anything, if I'm trying to connect with somebody, I'm just they're not vibing with it. I'm just not going to say anything, and then I'd get bullied for not saying anything, and so it was like, okay,
Lose lose.
it's a lose-lose scenario.
Yes.
And so it's weird because I had this pet toy fox at home,
Mhm.
and I would spill my guts to it, man. Every day I just
Oh,
almost like a journal, right? Instead of
yeah.
like everybody has a diary or something, I would speak to this thing. Uh, kind of psychopathic, but that's
Wait,
all I
man.
had.
Whatever works when you're a kid, right? You're
Yeah.
getting bullied, any outlet you could get.
Any outlet. I would tell my parents, of course. My parents knew everything, and they'd just be like, "Well, you should go, tell the principal or the teacher." I'd be like, "Well, if I did that, they'll call me snitch and then bully me even more." So I don't want to do that. So I was talking to this pet toy fox thing, and I would tell it my deepest, darkest secrets. I still have it. It knows everything to
Oh,
now,
that's
and
cool.
I just got sick and tired, bro, of being pushed around all the time for not fitting in. And so then I decided, okay, how am I going to start exactly doing this? Because if I go talk to people, they don't like me. And if I don't talk to people, they don't like me. Well, now instead of saying they don't like me, what silence did for me was made me understand that it's not really about blaming someone else. Because if you point a finger at someone, there's usually three pointing back.
Yes, sir.
And so it's like, okay, instead of saying they don't like me, maybe I should look at myself and say, what do I not like about myself?
Love it.
And that's what got me into the whole concept of self-realization and self-actualization, of sitting in silence talking to a fox and then coming to a conclusion that maybe my communication skills aren't the best. Maybe I'm not there in terms of connecting with someone. Maybe I'm just saying some cringe stuff or something super aggressive or not reading the room.
Yeah.
And that allowed me to figure out, okay, if I'm doing these problems, and I started writing them down, it's like, okay, if I go into a social interaction, what do I do? How am I going into something? Well, I found that, I was just going into something not even understanding what everybody's talking about. I just go in and just say stuff just for the sake of saying stuff because I wanted to think and sound cool. What that taught me was that attachment to an outcome of just wanting to fit in for the sake of fitting in so that somebody will like you usually is the root cause of all misery.
Yes.
So
Very
I'm sitting there
nice.
like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be attached to wanting to fit in. Maybe I should get attached to believing in what I say and
Mm,
saying it in a way that cultivates social skills. So reads the room and
yeah.
then and uses it to uh, state a point that I believe in so that people can relate. But that profound kind of realization didn't come until I started reading some books. First book I ever read was The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson.
Oh, great book, man. Great author. I'm so
Great.
glad to hear that you read that. Yes, I love Mark.
Yeah. That taught me how to just stop getting attached to an
Mm,
outcome and just
mhm.
letting stuff go. And then I was like, okay, this was at the end of high school almost. I was just starting to get into the whole sitting in silence and figuring out what's wrong with me and how I can cultivate social skills and do this kind of emotional resonance with people that they would connect with me. And so high school wasn't where I practiced. It was actually university. Before I went into university, I read a lot of pickup artist books.
Mhm, mhm.
Just how to talk to girls. Because in my mind, I was like, okay, if I just start something off at the hardest level, then
Yes.
everything else should be easier. And what's the hardest thing in any social interaction? Being attached to talking to a girl so you can get something,
Yeah, talk about outcomes, being attached to outcomes. Yes.
right? And
Yes.
so, what's the biggest thing that a teenage boy wants when he's going into university, right? Is getting a
Women,
girlfriend,
of
laid,
course. Yes.
And it's like, how do I get out of that situation? And how do I attach myself to just getting better as a communicator so
Yeah.
that I can,
Love it.
one, talk to girls just for the sake of talking to girls. And then everyone else would just find it easier to talk to me because then they're just guys and you don't really care,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
You face the big monster and then the little monsters are easy afterwards. You get your training on the big dragon.
Easy, easy.
Yes. Yeah.
And and so man, so I started reading a lot of pickup artist books and one of the things they had a lot of challenges in there where they would say like go talk to a girl and just smile. But instead of a girl, I kind of switched that to a person, just anybody.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, well, what if I actually tried this for anybody with this work? And in my mind, it made complete sense to me because when you're talking to a girl, you're really trying to relate. You're really trying to get some emotions across from her to you and you to her, right? So you're selling yourself,
Yep.
personality. And so I was like, well, what if I tried this with anybody? And so as an introvert, the biggest hurdle for me was to go up to someone and not even just say anything, just look at them and smile. Tough because you're attached to this outcome of what if they don't smile back?
Mhm.
And then the book said, who cares? you know? So
Yeah.
I was at this bus stop and I looked at someone and I smiled and they didn't smile back. So then I was like, okay, well, now I want to know what to do next. And it just kind of started this hamster wheel in my brain.
Mm.
Uh, and uh, and then I kept reading in these chapters and it was like, okay, well, go smile and then maybe say hi and then say how you're doing. And I did that. And then they just said, hi, how are you doing? And the book literally said, look away. Don't say anything else afterwards. We'll do the next exercise later. And so that through many steps, it got me to actually just start a conversation with someone random at a bus stop. And that's so huge for somebody that's been bullied for being quiet and trying to fit in.
Yeah.
because now I've just realized how to start a conversation with someone. And what it did, because I was already on the self-actualization journey, I was there like, okay, what did I do there? And why did that work?
Mm.
And what did I say? And is it because of something I said, or is it because of the way my body language was, or the way my rate of speech was, or the way I connected with them, or the emotion I used under my voice? And it just started a whole kind of squirrel in my brain again to figure out what that was and how I can do it with more and more people. And so just like spaces, I saw it happen once and I went into billions of them.
Yeah.
I saw it work once and I decided to myself that every day for the next year, I'm going to talk to 30 random people, girls, guys, whoever it may be. I'm just going to do it. Talk to 30 random people and make them connect with me and make them like me in the best way possible. Not for the outcome of making them like me, but for
Yeah.
the outcome of me figuring out how to
Yeah.
relate better,
Yeah.
not only to myself, but also to someone else. And so 30 people a day
Whew.
for the next year.
That's intense, man.
For the next year,
Dude, when you go for something, you fucking go for it. Now I understand how you're at 1,000 spaces a week.
it's making sense. It's making sense.
Yes.
And then, I mean, I talk to girls, I talk to guys, I talk to professors, I talk to people who are in like doing their PhDs, talk to master students, I talk to anybody. I would talk to a random person at a bus stop just to be like, oh, I like your purse, or I like the jeans you're wearing, or I really like your shoes. Where'd you get them? I would just think of random things to say.
Yeah.
Uh, and what that made me realize is you can relate to various archetypes of people
Yeah.
just by making them feel a little better about their day, because it starts off by being friends. Even if it's a random stranger, your connection starts off as relating,
Mhm.
and then it turns a little, you bring out your own why. And
Yeah.
so you explain your own why, and then they explain their own why, and it just becomes a kind of ping pong, you know, game of what's going to say next, and what am I going to say next, and what is he going to say next, and what am I going to say next. And then what that taught me is that, okay, well, I can't just say something to respond now. I actually have to say something to think for
Yeah.
myself
You have to
and
contribute in some
and
way, right?
understand what they're saying,
Yes.
and read
Yes.
the room and figure that stuff out. So 30 people a day for the next year. And I got to a point in university where I was probably one of the most liked kids. Not specifically for the reason of uh, because I had like lots of materials or anything in terms of studying, which I would distribute across to my friends and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Always been the middleman, but
Mhm.
but also because I was just relatable in the sense that, yeah, I see your problem. I have something similar. Let's talk.
Yeah.
And taught me empathy. It taught me emotional resonance. It taught me speech patterns. It taught me when to speak really slow, when to speak fast, when to pause. And you can really just match and mirror, not with body language, but also with your voice. And
Mm.
in relation to it, if you're trying to relate to someone, if you match and mirror their energy with your voice and vocal energy, you can then pull them into the area of where you want to be and what you want to talk about, because they've related to you. You've built rapport through the matching of your voice and energy. Now you're pulling them into an area where you want to talk about, and now you've left them thinking of stuff, which is so profound because now they want to know more.
Yes.
Influence, right?
Yep.
And
That's
so
how you influence people.
voice then becomes the biggest factor for influence and connection and communication.
Yes.
And then so that started me off on a whole different journey of, okay, well, what are the different vocal archetypes, and
Yeah.
who says what, and when do people pause, and what kind of person speaks really slow or seems motivational or seems like a coach, and
Yeah.
why.
Yeah.
and,
I would love to get into the vocal archetypes with you. It's really interesting to me. I heard you mentioning the other night, talking a little bit about Jung and archetypes, and applying that to different types of speech, which was very interesting. I'd love to dive into that. I just want to take a moment to recognize this is a beautiful archetypical hero's journey story here, man, that you just brought us through. And there's so much value to it, not just for somebody that wants to be more social, communicate better, and find their voice in the way that you found their voice, but the journey you just went through, we can apply to improving in anything in life. If it's just writing, if it's acting, if it's art, if it's music, because first off, I love that you started in the lowest place possible. You started in a place where all you had was a fox, a stuffed fox to talk to. You like the journeyman, the guy who everyone fucking loves, whose voice rings out through X every single day for hours and hours. He started talking to a stuffed fox. That was all he had, because when he went to talk to any people, he'd get bullied for it. When he was silent because he was scared to talk, he'd get bullied for it. So like this is a truly beautiful hero's story of starting from the bottom and going, well, I have two choices here. I can be silent for the rest of my life, or I can talk to this fox for the rest of my life, or I can figure this shit out. And what I love, this is a very stoic approach, is instead of pointing out at the world and saying everybody doesn't like me, you said, what can I change? What can I pay attention to? And I was there with you every step of the way of that, because that's a hard thing. I talk about this in my podcast a lot. People are so good at bullshitting themselves. People are
Yeah.
so good at saying it's somebody else's fault, or I don't have a talent for this, I just don't have the genes for this. Like, we have all sorts of ways that we can bullshit ourselves. And what the truly powerful people do in life is they go, I'm not going to bullshit myself. I can figure this out. I'm doing something wrong, and I can, through intentional practice, figure it out and improve. And that's something you did very methodically. Like, you did the study, you did the inner work, and then you went out, and as small as looking at somebody and smiling, all the way up into talking to 30 people a day, becoming the most popular guy at university. Like, what a beautiful example of what intentional practice and introspection can do over time. Very loved that. I just want to honor that story that you just took us through. Before
Thank
we
you.
go, before and we're not even through the whole story, because there's a lot more work that you've done since then, and a lot
Yeah.
more studying. So if you don't mind, I'd like to move forward to um, what initially got you interested in the idea of vocal archetypes, and what you've discovered along the way as you've been developing this.
Well, so communication and influence has been huge for me. Just because of the fact that you can have any idea and relate to people, and relating to people is what causes your success, to be honest, because your net worth is your network, right?
Yeah.
People will buy stuff from you just because they like you, and they like you because you've communicated with them.
Yeah.
Dialogos,
Yes,
right?
sir. Yes, sir.
So you're there. So how do you relate to any kind of person? And there's I found this guy. His name is Vin Jang. Uh, Essentially a guy that talks about public speaking, about communication, about just general ways that you can use your voice to uh, connect
Mhm.
and bring your ideas out. That's where I got the ideas from, the vocal archetypes. He he got the idea from, I think, the format system from somebody else, and people have gotten the idea from other people, et
Yeah,
cetera,
yeah,
et
yeah.
cetera. So like an idea isn't necessarily something that's original. It's something that you've heard from someone and you've put your own universal perspective on it, and then you've told your story. And
Yeah.
so these vocal archetypes I got from him, from learning from him, and one of the things that I've been going through uh, recently, where it's like, okay, how can I relate to any kind of person in the most efficient way? So now I know how to relate to people just by adapting. Because if you can describe my personality in one word, I would say it's adaptability. You just put
Yes.
me in any situation and I'll figure it out. Because again, it's stuff that's in my control, I'll control. Stuff that's not, who cares?
Very
Right.
stoic, man. Yes.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Controlling what you can control.
Yeah. And so okay, efficiency in communication then comes through vocal archetypes for me. And I find people are based in 4 of them. First one being a motivator. The way they speak, their rate of speech is very fast, and they don't speak like this. They're more flowy. They're more, like loud. Their volume is up there. And so even if they might not be trying to talk about motivation and they're trying to educate, but me just speaking like this makes you feel motivated.
Of course. Yeah.
And so there's motivators. So you have to be very aware of the vocal archetype you fit in. And while I go through this, tell me which one you fit in.
Okay. Yeah, very interested. I've never been typed as a speaker, so let's do it.
So motivator, right? High
Yeah.
rate of speech, high volume, just open expressions in body language, just more of a flowy way of speaking. Then the second one is the educator. The educator has a almost slow rate of speech. There's lots of pauses. Their volume is kind of a little bit lower. And the end of their sentences drop off.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, if I were to tell you, it's like, hey, I'm trying to teach you about communication, you will learn so much about these vocal archetypes. It just doesn't make you seem confident.
No. Yes.
It makes you seem like you're insecure a little bit. And so educators look at all these TED Talks. Some of them are teachers, like professors and stuff. They will come on there. They don't have crazy body language going on. They're very still. Their rate of speech is slow. Their pitch, the end of their sentences drop off in pitch, and they have lots of pauses. And then the third type is the coach. The coach comes off as super aggressive. And the reason is, like, think of a soccer coach. He will always talk to you like this. Like, what are you doing? Don't do that. Very poignant, very direct and punchy. It comes off as aggressive, but it's necessary. So, some people will be like, oh, dude, you come off as really aggressive. And then you got to think, well, why? Maybe it's the way I'm speaking. And the way you're speaking also expresses a certain emotion on your face. So even when I'm talking like this, you can see your face.
I can see it already. Yeah.
Right? It happens. It's just subconscious. And everybody does this. We all go through these vocal archetypes all the time. And then the last one is a friend. The friend is super informal. It's like you're going to somebody and you're being like, okay, let's go grab a beer, dude. Like, what are we having today? Super informal language, kind of flowy rate of speech. It's just open and expressive based on what's going on in the conversation. You just talk, right?
Yeah.
It's like you'd be going up to your friend like, yo, what are we watching tonight? Are we watching UFC? Are we drinking a beer? Are we going out for drinks? What are we getting for food? It's all about, there's the rate of speech varies. There's high and low ways of volume. There's just super informal language, and you can use a lot of filler words.
Yeah.
So we all fall into these vocal archetypes. And now what I'm trying to tell you is that the best way to influence at the most efficient rate is to vary between these archetypes.
Yes. Right tool for the right job.
Yeah. But even if you're given a speech, if you vary between the pauses, and then a little bit of a flowy kind of speech, and where you're talking about things and you increase your rate of speech, but then you definitely need to know how to do this. But like, dude, I know you can.
Dude, I'm feeling it right now just with your example.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. Dude, it's like music, man. It's like the dynamics of music, right? If you listen to thrash metal and it's just all the way through, it feels sort of heavy at first, and then 10 seconds in, you're like, well, there's no up and down, there's no dynamic. It's just right all the way through. But
so
like,
the point then,
it's so good.
Really does become that if you want to be influential, you need rhythm.
It's music, man. Yes.
It's music. Yes. Because if I ask you to go to like the page of your favorite book and recite it from memory, you won't be able to. Why?
Yeah.
But if I tell you to recite your favorite song,
easy. Yes.
So melody, rhythm, everything, we have to vary between the vocal archetypes while we're talking. The brain disengages with predictability.
Mm.
And when it senses predictability, it's done. That's why we say life is so special. Why do we say that? Because we don't know what's happening tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
You just don't know
Yes.
what's happening. So now
Yes.
we're all like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Mm.
Right. And it's the same way with speech. If you go into a if you take yourself back into your university or college days and you were sitting in a class listening to the most monotonous prof, why did you
It's
just
it's the teacher from Peanuts. Wah, 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 wah. There's
yeah,
nothing there.
there's
Yes.
nothing there. So
Yes.
be unpredictable with your voice, have a
Mm.
little bit of melody,
Yeah.
a little bit of rhythm,
Yeah.
and you will influence anybody.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. This is like one of those things that it feels so obvious, like we should know it. And I've done a lot of podcasts and I've listened to a lot of people talk about this, but I've never heard it put so clear, like so concise that it's about the rhythm of it, bro. Like, and it really, and then your example, talk about showing instead of telling. Your example, like I felt it physically, like, oh yeah, that's what it is. Like when you vary pitch, when you vary speed and rhythm, when you go through when you apply the different vocal archetypes in different situations, it keeps you engaged, right? And it's like, and the whole idea of like social media in general, it's about I've been studying copywriting now for a couple of months. Like I used to just write and I didn't even know what a hook was. I didn't even like get my mind around the fact that, like almost everyone's going to read right over your first sentence if it's not a good hook, if it doesn't grab attention, right? And if you don't lead them into wanting to continue to read. And so that's really changed my whole way of how I like record my videos and how I speak to people too. Like understanding that you got to grab attention, and then how do you keep attention? You keep attention by exactly what you're talking about when it comes to speaking, about varying your tonality, varying your speed, going through the different archetypes at the right time. And that's how and that's when time just flies by. And that's why, like, when you talk on a space, for example, why I'll often say it's compelling. Like I'm mesmerized. And this dude just talked for like 5 minutes straight, but it didn't feel long. It felt like an instant, because it's always like refreshing. Like, oh, now he's going in this direction, now he's talking in this way. So it's always it feels new all the way through. Whereas a very boring speaker, 30 seconds in, because they're doing the professor's style or whatever, it's slow and it's dropping off. It's like, oh, are they done yet? Like, it's so interesting, because really we're playing with attention and people's sense of time by delivering a message and communicating really well. And this is like, I've never even said that before, but just as listening to you, I was like really making it so clear to me that that's what your gift is. That's what the magic is. And it's something that people can learn, like with time and dedication. Yeah.
Exactly. And man, a lot of people, I think they need to be able to do this, but don't start it off just immediately trying, because it'll look
Yeah.
weird. So
Yeah, of course.
you need to be able to practice. And I think the best way to practice is to record and review. Just do a 5-minute recording of yourself speaking
Yeah.
about anything, and then keep your volume up, put the phone face down, and just listen. Listen
Mm,
to what's being said and how you said it. What that gives you is it's an auditory review. It tells you where you could have varied your rate of speech, because then it almost puts you out into a third perspective where it's
mhm.
like you're listening to your voice, but it's talking back to you as if it were your friend.
Yeah.
And are you engaged with that voice? And how can it be a little bit more engaging? So you start asking yourself these questions. Then you do a visual review, no audio, just look at yourself visually, see the
Mhm.
different body language that's going on. I like to say if it's too distracting, it's a problem.
Mhm.
Uh, because the distractions is what's going to get rid of the message. Like if I'm always talking like this,
Yeah. It's not
just
it's not serving your message. It's just
you know,
yeah.
and then get it transcribed, because then after you
Mhm.
get it transcribed, you can figure out and see where your filler words are. What are you using more? What's the actual filler word? Is it like? Is it and? Is it I used to use the word right all the time. So I would say
Mm.
something like right,
Mhm.
right, and it becomes a filler word. And so the
Yeah.
point is, if it's distracting, it gets rid of the message. It takes away from the message. And so then with these three things, you can figure out exactly how to be a little bit more engaging. You do it
Yeah.
for 15 days, every day, 5-minute video, hop on a space after that, 90% better than anybody else.
I believe it, bro. I'm taking that as real homework. I'm actually starting that today. I really love that idea a lot, man. My journeyman, my sensei. Yes, I'm gonna be taking that on, and it feels so true, and it gets right back to what I was talking about earlier, that we're really good at bullshitting ourselves, right?
Yeah,
So if we just talk in spaces and we never do that third person objective review, we're going to really be able to bullshit ourselves. And yeah, I'm pretty good at varying my my voice speed and tonality and this and that. Okay, well, go listen to yourself talk, and then let me know how you feel about it. Because
exactly.
yeah, it's like editing and reviewing what you write. If you just write and you send it off, like, it's when you let something sit for a couple days, you come back, edit, review, go, oh my god, I thought I was saying this in this way, and I missed the mark here, here, and there, and that's where that objective quality comes in. So you just took us through the exact process of how to do that vocally
Yeah,
and visually, how to present is do it and then come back through the 3 steps: listening, watching, and then transcribing and reading. And you can really refine that message delivery down, that communication down. Fucking love
right.
that, man.
And
Yeah.
if you think about communication, it's about understanding different perspectives, right? So why
Mm,
would you not want to understand your own perspective from all sides? So
yes.
visual, audio, readable is the only 3 perspectives that are there. We try to go understand everybody else's perspective, but we don't understand our own. And so
Beautiful.
if
Yes.
we understand our own, we can then use these keys to be like, oh, I see where he's coming from. He might be trying to teach something, but he's coming off as a little aggressive or a little coachy. Uh, Now I'm going to meet him there, and I'm going
Yeah.
to be like, well, dude, yeah, I understand. I understand what you're saying, but as soon as you match it, it's kind of counterintuitive because he's going to be like, oh, what? So weird. I'm trying to say something, but he's matching me. It's almost
Yeah.
like I like this guy, right?
Yeah.
You match, and then you pull. It's like, okay, you wanted to teach me this. Now we've built a little rapport. So now we can bring it into almost a little bit of a motivator type, and then start. Now you gamify it. You
Yeah.
just gamify your experience with someone.
Mm,
Um, and I don't want people just gamifying for the sake of gamifying. It's fairly important to understand that this can be used for different kinds of influence. It's
mm.
very important that we use it for the right kind of influence, which is to
Yeah.
better ourselves, right? And don't just go doing it because it's like you'll go to your boss, right, just without practicing at all. It's like you're expecting raise. Hey, boss, what's up? You're gonna get fired, dude.
Yeah, dude. You're playing with fire for sure. Yes.
So it's
Yeah.
important. It's important how you do this. And I think the record and review will get you there.
I love it, man. Yeah. It's a safe way to really work on your craft, and then you can start applying it in real world situations, like conversations with your boss or with a friend or a loved one or whatever.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's a lifelong process. I feel like you're getting at is, it's a personal work and practice that you're doing, and then every single day you're going to have opportunities to improve your ability to communicate and
exactly.
conversate with people. I really love that, man. So real quick, since we're like past the halfway point at this point, there's a couple of questions I like to ask on every podcast. I'm really interested in your take, and I feel like going through your story so far, we're right at the point where we can get a real nice. We're at a nice place for you to answer this question. So, because I'm a lover of the Stoics, one of the things that I think about a lot and meditate on a lot is what I consider to be the good life. The idea in Stoicism is you have one life to live. Your time is precious. Memento mori. Remember that you could die. We could die tonight in our sleep. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. Like you were saying, that
Yeah,
preciousness, what makes life precious, because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't even know if we'll be here tomorrow. And so, a question I like to ask a lot of my guests is, what do you consider the good life? We've seen the work that you've done up to this point, where you're here, what your mission is, what you want to do in this lifetime. Tell us a little bit about what life you're pursuing that would be the good life that you would be proud of accomplishing in this lifetime.
Oh man, that's a great question, man.
Yeah.
So there's this quote. I don't know if you've heard it before. We all have two lives in this world, and the second one starts when you realize you have only one to live.
Confucius. Yes, I've read the quote. I
Yeah,
love that quote, man. Yes.
yeah,
Yep.
it's something I live by completely.
Yeah.
And I realized I only have one to live this year.
Beautiful, man.
Yeah, it's crazy how everything just alignment is very key for me. And so if you're going to ask me what my definition of my best life is alignment. Just one word to break it down for you.
Mm,
Because when we take actions that are in line with what makes us feel fulfilled, we only either get what we want or we learn a lesson to take the next action,
love it.
right? And
Yes.
fulfillment, where does it come from? Knowledge. When we get knowledge, we feel satisfaction. A lot of people think we get knowledge and we feel fulfilled. There's a step in between that's missing. We get knowledge and we get satisfaction. There's no automatic transfer of skills. So
Mm,
you have to apply the knowledge to get the fulfillment. And the
yes.
application of the knowledge is what allows you to take the first step, and then the next step, and then the next step.
Yeah.
And so you look at this astronomical goal that you have. It's like, I can't achieve it. Well, it's like, of course you can't. You're thinking about way too many things.
Hmm.
If I told you, for example, to right now just change 50 things about the way you look, go in the next 10 seconds, like you won't,
Of course.
right? It's like your brain just, whoa, what?
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know?
Wrong timeline.
Yeah. But now if I tell you to change one thing and then, oh, that's great. Now change one more. Oh, one more. And if I did that 56 times, you have something that's still you, but looks completely different.
Yeah.
So if we take things, if we take actions in line with what make us feel fulfilled, we either get what we want or we learn a lesson. And right now, I'm walking in line with my fulfillment. My actual name, I'm not going to drop it here, but it means victory in social service. And so when I
Mm,
started this app, I said that true wealth is goodwill and only good will set you free.
yeah.
That's a Journeyman original quote.
That's fucking nice, man. That's fucking nice.
I didn't take that from anybody. I
Yeah.
just that's just I think you feel a lot more enlightened, you feel a lot more fulfilled when you help.
Yeah.
And
Nerve
I'm
service.
yeah,
Yeah.
and my service is helping people become better at communicating, just
Yeah.
how they feel, their ideas, just in life and in general, right? Because we all want to tell stories, we all want to share our stories. We feel more connected when we share stories. So let's share them efficiently, and let me teach you how to do that in a more engaging way so that we all just develop a greater sense of empathy. So what my actual big goal is to get the billions of people on this earth to be just a little bit more empathetic.
Mm,
Because if we can do
it's
that,
beautiful.
we're just on a different plane. We could stop so many things. Um,
Yeah.
that's my biggest goal.
That's a beautiful goal, man, and I love that you started off with alignment, that your sort of your North Star is how aligned you feel with the work that you're doing, with the way that you're living, right? With those tiny steps you're taking towards this big audacious goal, right? The idea of changing something about your appearance, 56 things at once, you can't, but you can do it one step at a time. And I've quoted this before. I've even posted it, and I don't have it committed to memory. But I think Nietzsche said something along the lines of, "The greatest goal I know in life is to perish in pursuit of like the greatest goal possible, or like the most insane, unreasonable goal possible." Right?
Yeah,
And
man.
I love that idea because it doesn't make it that you have to get whatever that final product is for it to be a success. It's the very fact that you have this huge, audacious, unreasonable goal, and every day you are taking a step towards it, right? And the idea of making a billion people a little bit more compassionate through understanding how to communicate to each other and understand each other better is a huge fucking goal, but it infuses your life with meaning. And you're aligned with it for a reason, right? And it's just crazy enough to work, right? There's people, there's Nelson Mandela and Gandhi, there's people that have changed the world with,
Yeah,
very humble, from very humble beginnings. And it's like, in the end, it doesn't even really matter. What matters is every single day you're aligned with something that infuses your life with meaning. And it shows, dude. As I said, I think I said it off camera before we even started, but like every time I hear you speak, I'm like, this is a dude that loves what he does. And
yeah,
regardless, whether it's a speaker, a musician, a carpenter, an engineer, when you see someone doing what they love, it's inspiring to yourself, and it opens you to, like, it's like gives you permission to really love and pursue what you do too. And
exactly.
in your life, in your example, you have this great love and passion, and you're dedicated to improving every single day. And the next layer on top of it, you're dedicated to helping other people and being of service to other people to achieve the same thing. And
Exactly.
with that formula, I don't know, man. I think we can get 1 billion people on board.
That would be cool. Like, man, I think it becomes an obsession. It really just does.
Yeah,
And I wake up like I wake up. The first thing I do before even brushing my teeth is get onto a space, bro.
I
Uh,
love that.
and it's I can't. I wake up sometimes and I'll be like, oh my god, I've spent 5, 6 hours not being on a space. Time to
Because you were
grind.
sleep. Because you were sleeping.
Yeah. It's crazy, dude.
I got a question for you. I got a question for you. Have you ever been dreamt that you're on a space, like in your
Yo,
dreams?
that would be so funny. No, but I'll be honest, I haven't dreamt that. But I have a problem. I actually have a problem. I don't remember my dreams. I don't know
Mm,
why. Maybe it's something I gotta figure out more of.
yeah.
It's not something I've really looked into, but I don't remember my dreams. I'll wake up. Sometimes I'll wake up just scared out of my mind because I haven't been on a space. I'm telling you,
I'm just seeing the journeyman in bed, falling asleep. You just finished a space like 5 minutes ago, right? You're thinking
it's
about you're thinking about, man, I'm gonna be out of the space game for like 6 hours. You wake up, first thought, I gotta get on a space.
exactly it, bro. That's exactly it, bro. I'm
I love
not
that.
even lying to you, man. And then I get on, and then everyone's like, "You were just on here," and I was like, "Yeah, I'm back." You know,
Yeah.
it's wild. I'm in the gym and I'm in space.
I've done that too. Yeah, I definitely I've had people call on me when I just finished a fucking hard rep and I'm catching my breath. Hey, what's going on?
Give
So
me a
I'm glad
sec.
to hear
I need 5 minutes.
I'm glad to hear I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
That's really cool, man. Okay, we're getting close to the end here. I'm gonna hit you with, because this is the laughing stoic Buddha. We're gonna go just a little bit into the Buddhist side, and really this is just general spiritual side. And I'm gonna ask a very big but simple question, and I
Okay.
know you're gonna have a great answer because I've heard you wax poetic on consciousness and reality and all that. So the question is this: what is this? What's going on? What is reality? What is this?
Silence is my answer. Everything goes into silence. Even when there's you think you're in a house, but you're not really in a house. The What you're in between in the walls is space. But even if you think about it, you're enclosed by something. Outside of that, there's still space. Outside of space, there's still space. And just like noise goes into nothing, we all go into nothing. And then that goes back into everything. And so what is this is just space, which is why I'm actually so addicted to space. It's it is. You just are. There is no answer. If you were to ask me who are you, my answer is just I am. Uh, and if I ask other people that question, they say I am, a name. or I am a soccer player, or I am a husband, or I'm a parent. But I'm going to ask them, if you were to sit in a blue car, for example, and drive, and I asked you who you were, you wouldn't say you're the blue car.
Yeah,
In that same way, this is super all materialistic. Everything inside you infinitely is space, right?
bro.
Everything inside you infinitely is space. So if you can think about how all sounds go into silence, then you realize that it just is. And so this is silence. When we stop, we get a chance to process. And when we process, we get a chance to create the next sound. And so that's my answer.
I love the hell out of that answer. That might be one of the best answers we've ever had on this podcast. And
Dude,
I'm not kidding, bro. And you have no idea. My first thought was, holy shit, we got to do a part two in a few months and just
yeah,
talk
dude.
about this, and just talk about this side of things, because you have no idea how exactly in my wheelhouse we are right now.
That's awesome.
So beautiful, so articulate. Some Brett Eric, who was the last one to do this podcast, just posted the other day. He said, "I'm looking for inspiration. What's your favorite quote?" Right, and there's hundreds of people put quotes in there, and the quote that I put, which aligns with your answer just now, this comes from Ramana Maharshi. He says, "The ultimate truth is in silence. The moment we go to speak of it, we obscure it."
Yes. Oh man, that's amazing, dude.
Thought you'd like
I
that.
I align with that completely.
Yes, yes,
Completely.
and that's always, like, in my life, when I look for answers in things outside of me, in ideas and whatever, they are partial answers always, and they're useful, and they're tools that we can use to navigate life and to live meaningfully and to solve problems and all that. But I always try to remind myself the ultimate answer has gotta be silence.
Has to be.
It's got it's gotta be emptiness. It's gotta be nothingness, and from that, and you're right on it, bro, and this is something I've meditated for, like, 4 years straight every single fucking day. I spend a lot of time, and it's just 10
Man,
minutes, you know, you go there enough, you get very familiar with that place, and you get familiar with that 0 point, with that empty 0 point from which everything emerges, right? From which Journeyman emerges, the whole personality, the whole story, the whole structure, from where Nick emerges and all that, right? And it's cool. Like, it's not like to hate on Nick or Journeyman that we're some sort of problem or we're some sort of mistake. No, we're the beautiful expression of the infinite, you know, and we're doing our thing. But never get it twisted that that's actually any more important or essential than the 0 point, than the
yes.
emptiness, than the silence, and understanding that that is outside of time, that's outside of space, that is actually the true nature, I believe, of what we are. And I remember we talked about this once on a space, and you just said it now, that is I am.
Yeah.
That is not I am the journeyman, I am Nick. It's no additives. It's the bare bones basics. I am
I
here
love
and
this.
now. Right on, bro.
That is a great answer, dude. We gotta have a part two on just
Yeah.
specifically.
Yeah, bro. We'll get deep into the spiritual and metaphysical side of things. I think it'd be a lot of fun. This is a really nice teaser. Nice little hook actually to keep people around for
Ding.
yes, Laughing Stoic Buddha Journeyman Part 2, getting
Oh
into the
man,
deep stuff.
I'd
Yeah.
be excited for that, man. That is 100% I'm in, man. You tell me when, we'll do it.
I appreciate it, bro. I appreciate your time so much. I know you're a busy man. You got a million spaces to be on. And the fact that really, dude, from the heart, no cap, the fact that you carved out an hour today in your schedule to do this with me, I truly appreciate so much. I consider you a friend. I consider you one of the coolest people in my world, this little corner of X and just life in general. So I love you, bro, for real. Thank you for taking the time to do this.
I love you too, man. I appreciate the hell out of you. You're killing the game. I'm telling you. I see you working every day. We're all gonna make it, man. If you win, I win. That's what
Right
it's
on,
about.
bro. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I believe it. And let's real quick promote your stuff, promote your handles, what you got going on, and all that. Where can people find you?
Yeah, sure. My people can find me on X JM underscore speaks double S at the end because I couldn't find a single S one. username, but and yeah, I mean, from there you could just hit me up in the DMs, and then we could take it from there. I have a Calendly thing that I usually send to people if they need exploratory calls on communication, so I could just send it off from the DMs. But that's about it. That's all I got.
Right on, guys. Go find him on X and become a world-class speaker,
Oh,
just like
thank
he
you
is.
so much.
All right. Love you, bro.
Hey, take
Great
care. Nice
podcast.
meeting you.
Do it again sometime.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this conversation, please hit the like button. If you want to watch more podcasts like this in the future, subscribe and hit the notification to be notified when they come up. If you want to keep up with me, I am on Twitter now every day at Write with a W already. Link to that will be in the description. If you want to check out my writing, I publish a newsletter every Friday through Substack. Link to that will also be in the description. I love you guys, and let's keep doing this together. Peace.